This is a field of over 10,000 Neta V Chinese EV cars. They all have license plates on them, they're all fully registered.
China's EV decisions rarely stay within its borders. This latest production dump is causing major problems for the global electric car market. Today, we will analyze the potential aftereffects on manufacturers, innovation, and EV adoption worldwide. China is facing significant economic difficulties, with its GDP growth rate slowing down to a mere 3.9% in the first quarter of 2024, the lowest in over 3 decades. This economic downturn has had a ripple effect on the electric vehicle industry, which is feeling the pinch. Despite the world's largest EV market, China's EV sales have been declining since 2022, with a surprising 41.6% drop in sales in the first quarter of 2024 compared to the same period in 2023. To make matters worse, the Chinese government's decision to reduce subsidies for EV purchases has further heightened the decline in sales. How has China's government supported the growth of the electric vehicle industry? The electric vehicle industry has been growing rapidly, with China playing a significant role in this expansion. The Chinese government has implemented various measures to support the EV sector, including subsidies and tax breaks. These incentives have led to a surge in EV production, resulting in an oversupply and the subsequent dumping of Chinese EVs in the global market. However, this has caused a price war, adversely affecting the EV markets in other countries. Nations like the US, Japan, and South Korea have found it difficult to compete with the low prices of Chinese EVs. The subsidies have allowed Chinese manufacturers to produce EVs at a significantly lower cost, enabling them to sell their vehicles at reduced prices and undercut foreign competitors. This has resulted in a decline in sales for non-Chinese manufacturers, with some, like Tesla, experiencing a drop in sales by over 30% in China. In response, countries affected by this trend have started to take protective measures. The US has introduced a 25% tariff on Chinese EV imports to safeguard its domestic industry. Japan has launched a subsidy program to support its local EV manufacturers. Similarly, South Korea has not only increased tariffs on Chinese EV imports, but also initiated a subsidy program to bolster its domestic EV production. These steps are aimed at creating a more level playing field and encouraging consumers to buy EVs made within their own countries. The impact of these measures on the global EV market is significant. While they may protect domestic industries in the short term, they also raise questions about the future of international trade in the EV sector and the potential for further trade disputes. The situation highlights the complex interplay between government policies, international competition, and the drive towards sustainable transportation. It remains to be seen how this dynamic will evolve and what long-term effects it will have on the global automotive industry. How is China mitigating the impact of tariffs and trade restrictions on its EV exports? In a strategic shift to mitigate the impact of tariffs and trade restrictions, China has initiated the establishment of manufacturing facilities in nations that have trade accords with the United States, such as Mexico. This tactic could potentially circumvent the existing tariffs and limitations, thus allowing China to sustain its exportation of electric vehicles to the US and other markets. Notably, BYD, a leading Chinese EV manufacturer, has commenced the construction of a production plant in Mexico. This facility is anticipated to have an annual production capacity exceeding 50,000 EVs. In a similar vein, other prominent Chinese EV producers, including Geely and Great Wall Motors, are actively supporting opportunities in Mexico. These companies are exploring the establishment of new production sites, which could significantly enhance their export capabilities. The global EV market is currently experiencing a substantial challenge due to the aggressive pricing strategies fueled by China's surplus production and extensive government subsidies. These factors have precipitated a price war with wide-ranging consequences for the industry. As the EV sector grapples with this complex scenario, it is yet to be determined how other nations will react to China's strategic maneuvers and the subsequent evolution of the market. One certainty remains: the future trajectory of the global EV market will be profoundly influenced by the intricate dynamics of governmental policies, international trade agreements, and the forces of the market. The construction of Chinese EV factories in Mexico is a direct response to the US's stringent tariffs on imported Chinese vehicles. Currently, imported Chinese cars are subject to a prohibitive 25% tariff, making them scarce in the US market. However, vehicles manufactured in Mexico with Chinese parts are only levied a 2.5% duty under the rules of the US-Mexico-Canada Agreement. This large difference in tariff rates presents a significant advantage for Chinese manufacturers looking to penetrate the US market without incurring high tariff costs. Moreover, the US government has expressed concerns over the potential for Chinese EVs to enter the US market through Mexico, which could undermine domestic industries. In response, US officials have exerted pressure on Mexico to refrain from providing subsidies to Chinese automakers, which has historically made Mexico an attractive location for car manufacturing. Despite these challenges, Chinese companies like BYD are forging ahead with their plans, undeterred by the shifting geopolitical landscape. What are the implications of China's decision to build factories in countries with trade agreements with the US? China's decision to build factories in countries with trade agreements with the US, such as Mexico, is a strategic move to bypass the tariffs and restrictions imposed on its EV exports. This move has significant implications for the US-Mexico trade relationship, which has already been under strain due to the ongoing renegotiation of the North American Free Trade Agreement. The US has been pressuring Mexico to increase its domestic content requirements for autos, which could potentially harm China's plans to use Mexico as a manufacturing hub. The global supply chain's reliance on China, particularly in the electric vehicle battery sector, is a critical aspect of the automotive industry's infrastructure. China's dominance in this area is substantial, with the country responsible for a significant portion of the world's EV battery production. In 2023, demand for EV batteries reached more than 750 GWh, up 40% relative to 2022. This production capacity gives China considerable influence over the global market and the ability to affect competitors' operations. Many automotive companies have set up shop in China to benefit from lower labor costs and attractive government incentives. However, this reliance is not without its drawbacks. Risks such as intellectual property theft, potential supply chain disruptions due to geopolitical tensions, and the ongoing trade wars pose significant challenges. To overcome these risks, the industry is looking towards diversifying its supply chain. Southeast Asia and Eastern Europe are emerging as potential alternative sources for EV battery production. These regions offer competitive advantages and could serve as a counterbalance to China's current dominance. Additionally, there is a growing trend towards localizing supply chains. By establishing manufacturing facilities within their borders, countries like the US aim to reduce dependency on China, which could lead to enhanced job creation and economic stimulation. However, localizing supply chains is not a simple task. It involves substantial investment and a strategic shift in operations. The process could span several years, requiring a long-term commitment from companies and support from local governments. The benefits of such a move include increased control over the supply chain, reduced transportation costs, and a smaller carbon footprint due to shorter shipping distances. In the context of EV battery production, the shift away from Chinese dominance could also foster innovation and competition. With the global demand for EVs on the rise, diversifying the supply chain could help stabilize prices and supply, ensuring that the industry can meet consumer demand without interruption. In the short term, the electric vehicle industry needs to prioritize exploring alternative battery technologies, such as solid-state batteries and fuel cells. This proactive approach would reduce our current dependence on China's dominant position in the global battery market. What are the implications of maintaining the status quo in the electric vehicle industry? The implications of maintaining the status quo are severe. Dependence on China could lead to crippling supply chain disruptions, intellectual property theft, and escalating trade tensions. These factors inevitably mean production delays, higher prices for manufacturers, and ultimately less choice for consumers. In conclusion, China's response to the tariffs and restrictions by building factories in countries with trade agreements with the US is a complex issue that requires careful consideration. The Biden administration's consideration of imposing import restrictions on EVs and components from China is a delicate balancing act that requires careful consideration of the potential impact on the global supply chain and consumers. And that's it for this video. If you liked it, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to get notified of our future videos.